Good morning, everybody. Happy Monday. We have an amazing show for everybody today. What do we have, Krystal?
Indeed, we do. Lots of interesting stories breaking this morning that we want to tell you all about. So, big developments in the Gretchen Whitmer alleged kidnapping plot. The jury has come to some decisions. We'll tell you about that. And I think there's also a big story here about the media handling of this case. Once again, not preparing people for what the likely outcome would ultimately be. President Trump making a very controversial endorsement in the Pennsylvania Senate race, backing Dr. Oz. We'll tell you about that. We also have new details about the quite dystopian lockdown going on in Shanghai right now, what it says about the COVID-0 policy and approach to pandemics. New York Times has a new Twitter policy that's pretty interesting, also pretty controversial. We have an analyst on to talk about the French election, which I'm pretty fascinated by.
Me too. Yeah.
It's kind of a stunning rejection of neoliberalism at a moment when there was a lot of triumphalism about neoliberalism. So we'll get into all of that.
Yeah, but we have two big announcements for everybody, for the premium subscribers. Number one, we are going on the road. New York City, here we come. We're going to be there on Thursday. We're doing a live show from a studio there in New York. Not live with an audience. We tried to make it happen, but this is the best that we can do it.
It was a little too, we got this idea a little last minute.
It was a last minute idea, but we decided to make this work. So we're going to be broadcasting live on YouTube. However, for our premium subs, we have a very special treat for you all. In the email today, there is going to be a Google form. We've got 15 different choices. You guys get to program the show. We're going to have Marshall Kosloff, who lives in New York City. Kyle Kalinske also lives in the NYC area. We're going to be together. We're going live on YouTube. But the premium subs, you get to decide which 5 topics that we're going to spend about 2 hours going deeper into. We'll prepare as much as possible. We'll talk, we'll debate. It'll be a lot of fun. I think that everybody will enjoy. Like we said, we'll go live. And then the latter half of there, we'll do some questions. Of course, we'll take 5 questions as normal from our premium subs. The others, we'll do super chat or something like that. But it's a fun new experiment that I think that we're all getting into.
Yeah, we want to try something a little bit different.
Number 2, and you guys are, I think, going to like this. You've asked this for some time. For our premium subscribers, we are launching a newsletter. So in the newsletter, every single day that there is a show, we're going to have a summary of all of the topics that we have here. We are also going to include all of our sources, references to past material that we've referenced. We've been working on this for a really long time. We wanted to make sure that it was an ironclad benefit for all of you. So you guys have asked for a long time, hey, I want to see all the sources and stuff that are in the show for your monologues. It's all right there. You can check us in terms of what we say. But even better, if you're busy and you're just in the morning, you want to see what we have there, it's going to be nice, concise summary, as well as links and everything else that you could possibly want.
Yeah,
so
make sure to say thank you to James, guys, because he's putting in the work for this. He claims that he likes doing it.
He says he likes it. It currently clocks in today's edition at around 1,500 words.
Yeah, you'll see it's pretty extensive. I mean, the thing I'm actually excited about is some of these stories. The Whitmer case is a perfect example, where we've been tracking it for a long time, doing monologues, doing coverage. We'll have a little bit of a trail of record there so that, you know, if this is the first time that you're hearing of this story, you can go back and look at the progression and some of the past coverage that we've done. So I'm excited about that. You know, guys, we're always trying to think of how we can deliver more quality product for you. That's what, you know, we both are kind of always turning over in our minds. So let us know what you think of it. I hope you find it additive. I hope you find it useful. We're pretty excited about it.
I think all the premium subs out there, you guys are really going to enjoy it. We want to make sure that you're having the best experience possible. So to summarize, number 1, vote for your favorite topics for the top 5 that the 4 of us will discuss during our live show.
Yeah. You'll get that link for how to vote in your premium email.
It will be in your newsletter, in your email with the link as well to the show. And number 2, check your email every single day. You'll have a newsletter there waiting for you if it's a busy day or something like that, or if you want to see what we covered, it's there. So let's go on to the show. Let's start with Ukraine. Number 1, first and foremost, the big news coming out of Ukraine is that NATO head of state, UK Prime Minister Boris Johnson, touching down in the city of Kyiv. Not only that, meeting with President Zelensky out in the open and walking the streets. Let's take a listen.
How are you?
You know how
are you? Nice to see you. Very, very, very glad to see you. How are you doing? You're looking good. Oh, it's an absolute pleasure to see you.
I would like to express words of gratitude for the support, for your leadership, for assistance and the weapons, and for your direct and very clear and specific position of your wonderful and powerful country, and thank you for this visit at this very difficult time.
Over the last few hours, I've been able to see quite a lot of your beautiful country. And it's an amazing country. I've also seen the tragic effects of the war, an inexcusable war, an absolutely inexcusable and unnecessary war. But having been here in Kiev just for a few hours, I have absolutely no doubt, Volodymyr, listening to you, listening to your team, your redoubtable team, I have no doubt at all that an independent, sovereign Ukraine will rise again.
Wow, that's quite a visit there in terms of what happened here, Krystal.
Redoubtable is a great word.
It is a great word. It's a couple of things going on here. Number one, this is not, I think, as reckless as the original NATO head of state visit there from Poland, Czechoslovakia, and Slovenia, just because Kiev was literally under assault at the time.
Agreed.
Now, we've had the troop withdrawal from Kiev. There hasn't been as much shelling and as much combat within the city, so it's not as unsafe. The other thing is that we have to consider Boris Johnson in his own domestic political context.
Yes.
He was not doing so well. This is very much, Johnson himself is a student of history. He wrote a biography of Churchill. Churchill was actually famous for flying over into France during the Battle of France, visiting with the French generals, and Churchill also made several trips to the front. So he's trying to conjure up that both also for domestic political support. Europeans are actually much more, I would say, hawkish, I guess, on the Russia question, given that they're literally, 1,000 miles or so away. So this is another way for him to shore up domestic political support. But it's still extraordinary to see, the second most powerful state in all of NATO to go and sit on the ground in Kiev, meant obviously as a tool of solidarity, but it also represents that the situation there in the city is now safe enough for that to happen, and for Zelensky himself in order to walk around. They didn't have that big of a guard, if you saw that.
Yeah,
it was pretty limited.
That is true. Is it accurate to say, though, that the Europeans in general, I'm sure there's a wide variety of sentiment that varies country to country, though, are more hawkish? Because I would say that the French election results that we're seeing kind of suggest otherwise. You saw Macron really sort of fall off in these past weeks as he's been very actively engaged and very pro-NATO and very pro-EU. And you saw, both, of course, the right-wing candidate Marine Le Pen and the left-wing candidate, both of whom were sort of like NATO skeptical, on the rise. So I'm just saying, I'm not sure it's as simple as that. With regards to Boris Johnson, you're so right to point out the domestic political context. I looked up the last YouGov poll that was about a month ago, had 63% of UK voters saying that Johnson is doing a bad job. Only 30% say that he is doing a good job. If you all haven't followed it closely, he is besieged by scandal because while London and the UK were under lockdown, they were hosting nearly weekly parties, just completely flouting the rules and laughing about it. So he's trying to distract from that. And I gotta say, I'm just kind of skeptical in general at this point of these token symbolic gestures. So much of the world stage here and abroad is consumed by theater rather than actual substance and policy. So, it seems to me like it's an attempt at self-aggrandizement. Is it as foolish and irresponsible as the initial visits? No, I don't think so. At this point, like you said, Kyiv is not under siege. Russian troops have withdrawn to the eastern part of the country. But did it really accomplish anything other than, him getting to sort of posture for the cameras? No, not really.
Yeah. So at the same time, in terms of the Russians, they've tapped a new war commander. Let's put this up there on the screen. President Putin tapping the new commander to take the new control of the next phase of the battle after the initial failure. So this new person is General Alexander Dvorkinov. He's one of Russia's most experienced military officers. This is according to the Pentagon, so, always take that with a grain of salt. They say he is a general with a record of brutality against civilians in Syria and other war theaters. Up to now, Russia actually did not have a central war commander on the ground. Maybe that's why things didn't go so well. So this is somebody with experience in Syria, somebody who obviously is trusted by Putin. In 2016, he was actually given the Hero of Russia medal, which is one of the highest awards in the country, and he's somebody who is clearly trusted by the Putin regime. Now, in terms of what's happening also, in terms of the political situation, part of the reason why that this visit happened, and then there has been an increased push by the NATO heads of state, is because both of what happened in Bucha, but also, let's put this up there, it's got quite a bit of attention over the weekend, which is that dozens of people were killed and about 100 injured on Friday. It was in a Russian rocket attack on a train station. Now, the reason why this matters is this train station was one of the easternmost stations that was still operating in Ukraine. And because the Russian offensive has really concentrated entirely within the east of the country at this point, a lot of the civilians there were trying their best in order to flee. Now, according to some of the people who are independent observers, at least from we've seen, there were a lot of civilians who were killed in this, and obviously, outraged the world. This has also spawned, Krystal, a new refugee flood from the country, from the east towards the west, and even more so. So, I mean, at this point, we're talking about millions and millions of people. Almost 10% of the Ukrainian population has been displaced, maybe even more. And in the east of the country as well, this rocket attack was really seen by a lot of people as an extraordinary event, given that the Russians are already fighting, in terms of hearts and minds for the civilian within the eastern part of the country, which is most likely, in the long run to be annexed by them. But it was a significant event nonetheless.
Yeah, and I think what we can see, and let's go ahead and put this last piece of the map up on the screen. I mean, all of these developments just basically indicate that we're entering a new phase of this war. The Russians have refocused their troops in eastern Ukraine. Here's what Simtac says. They say, despite intense fighting, Ukrainian defenders have managed to hold back Russian offensives in eastern Ukraine over the past days. Near Kherson, Ukrainian forces continue to push the fight closer to the city. So you have, a renewed refugee crisis, people trying to flee the eastern part of the country. Russia sort of shuffling the deck in terms of their military leadership and their strategy, trying to refocus both on that eastern section, and also they keep talking about this land bridge to Crimea to secure the regions that they already had a foothold in. And civilian brutality towards civilians and continued atrocities that is going to make life just horrific for people who live in these regions.
Yeah, I think that's really just the broader summary of where it is. We're in a new phase of the campaign, concentrated in the east, but just because that is happening does not also mean that it won't be brutal, that there won't be a lot of civilians that die. And on top of that, the diplomatic solution, or the diplomatic situation, is such that now a NATO head of state can visit Kyiv. But in terms of peace talks, we still don't see anything. That's really, unfortunately, the update for you. Really, all I just see is a lot of civilians who are suffering, both the ones who were killed, but now it's the millions who are fleeing and who are terrified of living under Russian occupation.
The country is so destroyed, too.
Yeah, it's really just an awful situation. Hey guys, we're going to be totally upfront with you. This is the most perilous time that we have ever operated in.
It is so difficult just to try to sort through the news, but even more importantly, to bring you accurate information as this wave of lockdown and censorship spreads across the nation.
Yeah, look, if you can become a premium subscriber today at breakingpoints.com, you're going to help us build out a vibrant, independent media ecosystem which is free of mainstream pressure. We can't tell you how important that is at a time like this.
Yep, that's right. Go to breakingpoints.com to subscribe. We love you guys and we appreciate you so much.